Today we're going to be doing a Mafia 1 recap. So this video is basically for the people who've never played Mafia ever, or has played Mafia 2 but not Mafia 1. So I'm going to be making a recap for Mafia 2 just to get ready for Mafia 3 when it comes out in October. I'm quite excited, and in this recap I'll be showing you the missions, the characters, everything you need, so you'll be able to follow the Mafia 2 recap, and just in case there's any characters or references from Mafia 3 relating to Mafia 1 or Mafia 2. So let's get straight into it, and I hope you enjoy and like and subscribe. So, prologue. 1938, present day, we are introduced to our protagonist Tommy Angelo as he's given a witness statement or a testimony to Detective Norman about the Salieri crime family that he is currently inside, and basically this is how the story is told throughout his testimony of the story. This is where Mission 1 begins, an offer you can't refuse. In 1938, years prior of the present, Tommy is a taxi driver and he takes a break from his job until he runs into two associates of the Salieri family, which are Sam and Paulie, which are driving away from rival gangsters, the Morello gang, and Paulie threatens Tommy into driving them away from the Morello gang and back to the Salieri bar. And Tommy successfully does that and actually gains the respect from Don Salieri, and Sam gives Tommy a favour and some money to repair his taxi, but which leads to Tommy to question his job and what he's doing with his life. This leads on to Mission 2 the next day, when Tommy is ambushed by the Morello goons from the night before, and he is forced to run away whilst they're trying to beat him up. So Tommy runs all the way to the Salieri bar that he dropped off Paul and Sam to cash in his favour from Don Salieri. The goons chase him all the way to Salieri's bar and follow him inside. The goons are then killed, and then Tommy is brought into the Salieri family. So this leads to retaliation. Don Salieri sends Paulie and Tommy to go and attack the Morello family, who attacked them first, by blowing up their cars with Molotovs, leading into Mission 3, the Molotov Party. The next day, ordinary routine Mission 4, Tommy, Sam and Paulie collecting protection money in different businesses around Lost Heaven. This leads to a motel in the countryside, which Paulie and Sam go inside, and a Morello goons ambush them. The Morello goon comes out after shooting Paulie and kidnapping Sam to warn Tommy to keep away, Salieri, and that Morello is taken over. So Tommy sneaks in, kills all the Morello goons until there's one left, which is Soldato called Louis. He steals the money from the business and warns Tommy to keep away as he tries to drive off. So Tommy, Sam and Paulie chase after this man and shoot him in the middle of the road, and that ends that 1930. Which leads on to 1932. This is when Tommy and Salieri fix the Grand Prix of Lost Heaven in 1932. He tasks Tommy to go and sabotage a car, which he brings to Lucas Bertone, who is an engineer that helps the family and helps Tommy find different cars and lockpick himself into new cars. So he brings the car to Lucas Bertone, he damages it, and the racer that he's racing against in the Grand Prix conks out, leading Tommy to win the Grand Prix and winning the Salieri family lots and lots and lots of money. So Mission 6 Sarah starts. The bartender from Salieri asks Tommy to escort his daughter Sarah back to her apartment as she was harassed the night before by three goons in the alleyways. So Tommy accepts and escorts her through the alleyways back home, and they are met again by the three goons. Tommy attacks them and goes back to her apartment and starts a relationship with her, and that same night conceives their first child, which is born in 1935. This leads to the next morning, Salieri tasking Paulie and Tommy to attacking the goons again, who have been trying to start criminal activities on the Salieri's territory. They crash them off the road and kill both the men. Well, as they think they've killed both the men, but one of the men lives, and the one they kill is a city councillor's son, leading to the political characters of the city targeting Salieri. So Mission 8 and 9, the Horde, the Priest. Tommy is tasked to go to the Corleone Hotel and take care of a witness that has been chatting shit, basically. But anyway, has been talking about Salieri's activities and has got a member killed and another member to lose a lot of money. So, and is also tasked to blow up the Corleone Hotel, as they won't pay Tommy or the Salieri family any protection money, but they'll pay the Morello gang. So Tommy goes to the hotel and discovers that Michelle, a known associate of the Salieri family and Sarah's best friend, is the leak, and he remembers meeting her in the mission Fairplay, mission 4. So then Tommy then has a conscience and lets her go, obviously saying that it should never ever come back to the city. So, and then blows up the Corleone Hotel and then goes to the church where the funeral of one of the men who survived the crash, the goons, the city councillor's son's funeral, and then kills everyone there just to make sure that they don't talk. Mission 10, a trip to the country. Basically, it's a shipment of alcohol that's being distributed through the countryside, and the Morello gang attack it, ambushing the Salieri family. So then Sam is kidnapped by the Morello men, so Tommy saves them, and then they ultimately get back to the city safe with the shipment, so all is safe and sound. Leading into Mission 11, Omerta, when Salieri sends Tommy to kill his longtime friend Frank Coletti, who is his consigliere, who has given the FBI evidence against the Salieri family to put them all in prison for the rest of their lives. Tommy does not go through with it and does not kill Frank, but Frank tells Tommy where the evidence is that he was going to use against him, which is located in a DA's office. No, it's in a mansion, DA's mansion in Lost Heaven. So Tommy gets a safecracker, goes to the mansion and steals the evidence back so they could not use it against the Salieri family. So this leads on to the next mission, which is mission 13, a great deal, which Paulie and Tommy and Sam meet Bill Gates, not the same Bill Gates from Microsoft, but then the Morello goons show up and ruin the deal. So the Morello goons show up, kill Bill Gates, who is given a deal to the Paulie, Sam and Tommy for the whiskey that has been stolen off the Morello goons. So then Paulie, Tommy and Sam escape the Morello goons with the shipment and delivering a huge blow to the Morello's reputation in the city. So, 1935, Mission 14, Bon Appetit. Salieri then goes out to dinner with Tommy, as Salieri's bodyguard does not show up to work. They go to Pepe's restaurant, which is also located in Lost Heaven, and an assassination hit takes place against Salieri. So, Morello has his men blow up Pepe's restaurant, trying to kill Salieri, but they do not succeed, as Tommy protects Salieri and kills all the hitmen. Salieri then knows exactly who set him up, as they go to his bodyguard's apartment, finding him there, and they fortunately kill him, getting rid of the rat in the Salieri family. Then this leads to the next mission. This is all-out war has started against Salieri's and Morello's. We're introduced to Don Morello and Sergio Morello Jr., who is his brother. Mission 16, the Lucky Bastard. Assassination takes place for Sergio Morello, but the first assassination does not succeed. Neither does the second, and neither does the third. As the first one, they shoot the wrong person. The second one, they blow up the mistress. And the third one, well, let's just say he misses the car and the train hits the Salieri men. So this leads on to Tommy finding Sergio and killing him. Mission 17, Creme de la Creme. They kill Don Morello. They go to the theatre where he's supposed to be, and then they chase him to the airport, and then they shoot down his plane, ended the Morellos in Lost Heaven. So 3 years later, Salieri is top dog in Lost Heaven. So that means that he has to own every political character in the city, except from one political character does not accept his demands, and Tommy is tasked to kill him with a sniper rifle in front of all the audience that he's given a speech to. He then tasks Paulie, Sam and Tommy to go and oversee a delivery of cigar shipments, and before this happens, Paulie gets Sam and Tommy in on a plan to rob a bank and get a little take for themselves instead of a small take that Salieri gives them. Unfortunately, Tommy doesn't accept at first, but Sam does not accept at all, and the plan does not go through until the end of the mission. During the mission, Tommy and Paulie find diamonds hidden inside of the scar boxes that weren't told, well, they weren't told about them, which means that Salieri was scamming them and keeping the money for himself. This makes Tommy want to rob the bank even more, so Tommy and Paulie go ahead with the plan and rob a bank, leading on to Mission 20, Moonlighting, where Tommy and Paulie go against Salieri and actually pull off the job and rob the bank, really, and they get away with a lot of dough without giving Salieri any tribute or any share. Also doing the plan without Sam, which really makes problems for them in the end, as Mission 21, the death of Art. Tommy goes back to Paulie's apartment after stashing the cash there to see him dead on the floor. Tommy cries out in agony, like, as one of his best friends has just died, and he checks the cash to see it all missing. Sam later calls and orchestrates a meeting between him and Tommy to meet at the museum to talk about Paulie's death. Tommy goes there, and it is revealed that Sam in fact killed Paulie for Don Salieri, and it starts a little showdown against Tommy and Sam. During the showdown, Sam reveals that Don Salieri in fact sent them to kill Tommy and Paulie for hitting up the bank job and not giving them any sort of tribute. He also reveals that Frank was in fact found and killed in Europe somewhere, and along with Michelle, who he let live at the Corleone Hotel, showing that Tommy was actually a liability leading these people to live, and he was going to die one way or another. So this also leads to Sam getting killed off Tommy, and then Tommy going to the police, and now this is where we are in 1938, where the story ends. Tommy finishes his statement, and Detective Norman accepts and puts Salieri and the rest of his men behind bars, and some of them even get the death penalty, whereas Tommy gets put into the witness protection program, changing his name and changing places in the States with his family. So a flash forward to 1951, a 51-year-old Tommy Angelo is seen living life at peace, watering his garden, nice neighborhood, until a red car stops at his garden and two men get out. One of them approaching Tommy, who has now got a new name. One of them asks Mr. Angelo, and he foolishly says yes, ? And the other man says Mr. Salieri sends his regards, and then finally shooting Tommy, killing Tommy, and ending the story right there. By this, we'll understand that he was sent by Salieri, and that is where the story ends. Tommy got what he deserved after he ratted off his family, and during one of the end missions, Sam actually foreshadows this by saying that Salieri will get Tommy one day, anytime, anywhere, really, and that's exactly what he got. And want to get ready for the Mafia 3 story in case there's any references. Warning, there will be some graphic content shown, so be warned about that, and spoilers. So, 1932, in the introduction, Vito is immigrating to the USA, Empire Bay, with his family from Sicily. And then it flashes forward to 1943, where Vito is arrested for robbing a jewelry store with his best friend Joe. And he gets a choice if he will do his time in prison, or he'll go to World War II and fight for the American Army. So, Chapter 1, the old country, Vito is in Sicily, liberating it from the Italian forces, until a tank comes along and wounds him and the rest of his squad, until Don Carlo, a Don in real life, saves them by giving the Italian officers opportunity and a deal from him, as he's well known around the community as the Don and a man of honor. So the Italian forces surrender, and Vito is then saved as he was about to be executed by a soldier. 2 years later, Vito returns home to Empire Bay due to an injury that he's on leave for, and reunites with his best friend Joe Barbaro. Joe helps him out and gives him forged documents so he could stay back in Empire Bay and he didn't have to return back to the war. The next morning, he's welcomed by loan sharks who are harassing his sister about a loan, and it is revealed that his father, in fact, had a lot of debt before he died, and Vito has to pay it back, otherwise his family will be harassed. So this leads to Joe getting him a few jobs for Mike Brewski, who is a scrapyard owner, and gets him to steal a car from the black mob. And this also leads to Vito working for Derek Pappalardo as muscle, as his mother insisted that he goes down and gets a job just like Vito's father did for Derek. This also leads to Henry Tomasino being introduced to Vito by Joe, and he's a Clemente associate, well, soldier, and he gets Vito to go and steal gas stamps from an admin building in which he sells to gas attendants all over Empire Bay and making a lot of money. The next morning, Vito and Joe are welcomed by Henry until they are tasked to go and rob a jewelry store, which the owner will not pay Clemente his debt back, and they go as electricians, and until the Irish mob also rob the same store, causing the police to show up, and Vito and Joe escaping via rooftop, whilst killing a lot of police officers and O'Neill's men. So they escape over the rooftop, and the police take O'Neill, arrest him, and put the blame on them. So O'Neill is arrested, whereas Vito and Joe get away with the stolen goods and unscathed. So this leads into the next morning, the Buzzsaw, where Luca Guarino, a capo of the Clemente family, gives orders to Henry, Joe, and Vito to kill Sidney Penn, a former associate who got too big for his boots. And Vito goes and buys an MG42, and they botch the first assassination attempt, but they chase Sidney into his warehouse and kill him. But before they do that, Sidney shoots Henry, and they have to take him to El Greco. Next morning, Vito is then arrested by the police outside of Joe's apartment for the distribution of the gas stamps. As one of the gas attendants squealed on him, Vito is then sentenced for 10 years in prison. So, inside prison, he sees Brian O'Neill until they start a fight with each other. Vito survives the encounter and is put into solitary confinement until Leo Galante befriends him and Vito becomes his protege and a fighter in prison. So, Vito fights off rapists and other gang boxers, fighters, whatever you want to call them, in prison until he gets a visit from his sister saying that his mother is in fact ill, and it is later revealed that she died whilst his sister was visiting that day. So Leo then tasks Vito to kill Brian O'Neill in the gym as Brian beat up one of his fighters who was ready for a big fight in the prison, and then Vito ultimately kills him. In 1951, Vito is then released due to the early release of Leo's favour, and then meets Eddie Scarpa, underboss in the Falcone family and a great friend of Joe's. So that night, Vito, Joe, and Eddie go out to the cat house and celebrate Vito's return until Eddie gets too drunk and forgets that he has a body in the back of his car and he needs to get rid of it. So Eddie, Vito, and Joe go up to the observatory and get rid of the body. The next morning, Joe turns up at Vito's home with a little friend of his and has a truck full of stolen cigarettes that are needing to be sold for Eddie, and they go to the greasers' territory and start selling the cigarettes until a gang of greasers turn up and bomb the truck when they won't give them any tribute or any cut of the cigarettes for being on the turf. So this leads to Vito and Joe meeting up with Marty and Stephen Cohen later that day and attacking the Greasers HQ. So they kill all the Greasers to get revenge, and then they escape. So next morning, Vito is then introduced to the Don of the Falcone family, Carlo Falcone, and he explains that a couple of his men have went missing. Tony Balls and Harvey Beans Epstein, his accountant. So he suspects that the Clemente family are behind it. So Vito follows Luca Guarino to the slaughterhouse, and he discovers his men are there, hung up and kidnapped. So Vito and Tony fight all of Luca's goons, and Tony then executes Luca by putting him into a grinder. After this, Vito and Joe are made into the Falcone family. So that they are newest soldiers to the Falcone family, improving their lives and achieving their dream, as this is what they've been aiming for since the start of the game. So they start buying new things, and Vito gets a brand new home. Chapter 10, Room Service. Joe and Vito are tasked by Don Carlo Falcone himself to take out rival Don Alberto Clemente at the Empire Arms Hotel. So Joe takes along Marty as a getaway driver, and they go up to the room, plant a bomb, disguised as cleaners. The bomb goes off way too early, and check this, Alberto Clemente was inside the bathroom when the bomb went off. This leads to him escaping and killing Marty in the car park while he escaped. Joe and Vito chase down Alberto in the limousine, and Joe takes out a fit of rage, executing him in the passenger seat, of his limo. Don Alberto Clemente dead. The Clemente family are finished in Empire Bay, and Don Falcone becomes one of the most strongest guys in the city. Henry comes to Vito's home and explaining that he wants to join the Falcone family after Clemente's death yesterday. So Vito takes Henry to the Maltese Falcon and introduces him to Eddie, who Eddie tasks Henry to kill Leo Galante as an induction, and Henry accepts the hit. So Vito rushes to Leo's home and saves him, and before Henry discovers Leo's gone, Leo escapes to Lost Heaven, in which Vito also solves a family issue when he goes home with his sister and her husband. Later that night, when Vito is asleep, the O'Neill gang petrol bomb Vito's home for retribution for Brian's death in 1945. So Vito escapes and goes to Joe's home, and then they both go to the Hill of Tara and kill all of the Irish inside the pub. Then Joe gives the keys to Marty's apartment to Vito, and then Vito lives there for the rest of the story. Then Henry approaches Joe and Vito with a potential drug deal with the Triads, and they accept. So they go to a local loan shark called Bruno, and they borrow 35 grand, and they buy the heroin from an enforcer, Mr. Wong, and when they leave, they are ambushed but finally escape. So Henry, Joe and Vito sell all the heroin, making a lot of side money for themselves. Don Falcone finds out about the deals and wants a huge cut. So Henry, with the money, tells Joe and Vito to meet him at the park. They arrive to find that the Triads attacking Henry with knives and escape with the money. Henry dies on the street, whereas Joe and Vito gain revenge and attack the Triad restaurant. They find Wong in the basement, Wong refusing to give up the money and tell him that Henry was an informant. Joe kills Wong in anger. So the next morning, in need of cash to pay back Bruno, Joe and Vito take a hit from Eddie that was given by another family in a different city. So they are provided a car and something to say before killing the man, and they head over to his home in Greenfield. And guess who it is? Tommy Angelo from Mafia 1, the protagonist. Vito and Joe approach him, saying, "Mr. Angelo." Vito asks. Yes, he responds. Mr. Salieri sends his regards. Joe shooting him dead. And that, it reveals that Joe and Vito were the gunmen at the end of Mafia 1 that kills Tommy Angelo, end in Mafia 1. So this later leads to Vito visiting Derek to earn more money, and upon this, a dockworker actually reveals that Vito's father was killed by Stephen Cohen, and leading Vito turning on Derek and chasing down both of them and killing Derek, Stephen and all of their men inside the warehouse of Derek's dock. So when Vito goes into Derek's office, he finds Derek's retirement fund, and that is about a couple of grand and a lot to pay back Bruno. So Joe goes missing when Vito goes to look for him inside of his apartment, and Vito's then kidnapped by Don Vinci due to Leo's disappearance, as he disappeared from the chapter I want to say chapter 11. Joe and Vito finally escape, and then Vito takes Joe all the way back up to El Greco, and then he gives him enough money to pay back Bruno, ending the debt for the drug scheme. So Vito goes to Bruno, gives him the money, and pays him off, and it is revealed that Bruno is the loan shark to Vito's father. So, chapter 15 per Aspera Ad Astra. Leo picks up Vito and reveals that Henry was in fact a rat, and that the Chinese and the mob families are at war because of what they did in Exit the Dragon. So, Leo tasks Vito to kill Don Carlo Falcone. So, he goes to the observatory, Carlo's there, and Carlo turns on Vito, Joe pointing the gun at Vito, and they both turn on Falcone, leading into a big fight. Obviously Falcone failing, he is later shot by Vito, killing them, and ending the war between the mob families and the triads. So Joe, Vito go outside, see Leo Galante and all his men standing there. They are picked up, driven to the cat house. Joe getting into a separate car to Vito. Vito's in the same car as Leo, they're talking, and it is revealed that Joe wasn't part of the deal, with Joe's car turning a different way to Vito's, presuming his death. And that is where the Mafia 2 story ends. We don't really get to see Vito's reaction as the camera pans up to the view of the city, so we don't really know how he reacted to it, if he went into a mortal rage and killed everyone. But that is the end of Mafia 2. And now, in the next video, I'm going to be showing you Joe's adventures, which is set a year before Mafia 2, and that could show us some light and possibly show us some different references that might come up in Mafia 3. So, hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Hello, today we're going to be doing the Mafia 2 Joe's Adventures DLC recap. So, this video isn't going to be that long, seeing as there's only like 5 cutscenes in the whole of this DLC. Mainly, it's all gameplay, but there's enough to explain what's going on, and hopefully I'm going to highlight some references and possible events that take place that could possibly lead on to Mafia 3, just in case. So obviously there's going to be spoilers alert, and in this DLC there's going to be new characters, and also old characters that are currently dead being revived as Joe's Adventures takes place in the middle of Mafia 2, so let's get into it. So firstly, the story starts off in 1945 as the mission The Buzzsaw has just ended, and the mission Time Well Spent in Mafia 2 is just beginning. This is during the cutscene, but this shows Joe's point of view as Joe awakens in his apartment with 2 hookers and looks out the window and sees Joe and Vito getting arrested by the police officers and getting taken into the car. This leads to Joe calling up Luca Guarino and telling him that Vito's just got pinched off the cops, and then Luca tells Joe that there was a witness as one of the gas attendants squealed about the gas stamps that they sold. So Joe gets ready and then goes down to the gas station where the gas attendant works. Chases the gas attendant. Little did he know, it's the wrong gas attendant. The one that ratted on Vito is currently at the train station and is buying a ticket to leave Empire Bay before he testifies. So this leads to Joe going to the train station, chasing down the gas attendant that's testifying, and tells him not to testify, and if he ever sees him in Empire Bay again, you'll kill him. So the gas attendant also reveals that there's another witness, but this witness is not, in fact, a gas attendant. It is part of the Clemente family, so he is also in a ski lodge that is being protected by the police officers. So Joe goes up to the ski lodge, chases him down. He's revealed to be Richie Mazziono or something. I can't really remember his name. And he also kills him, leading to hoping that it doesn't really do much as Vito goes to jail anyway, but he kills the witness and gets rid of the guy who's testifying against the whole family. Then that leads to Vito getting arrested and then put in prison for about 6 years. And then Joe goes over to Freddy's bar, insults Luca in front of his men, which leads to Luca putting Joe on his hit list, sending men after him, until Henry phones up Joe, telling him that Luca sent hitmen after him and that Joe needs to escape the city. So Joe does that, and let's say he goes down south, which could possibly be Louisiana, which is based on Mafia 3. He goes there for 5 years, coming back to Empire Bay in 1950, 1 year before Mafia 2 second half occurs. So 1950, Joe comes back, meets Tony Balsamo, aka Tony Balls, who you also meet in Mafia 2, starts working for him, until he's introduced to Eddie, who is a Falcone underboss, and he starts also working for him. So he does a few jobs for him, and then he's introduced to another character called Rocco, who's a Falcone capo. This is where the story starts to get interesting. Rocco is first introduced as he's interrogating a rat, who is later revealed to be Frankie Potts, the same character that you dig a hole for in chapter 7, I want to say. But it also doesn't make sense, as like this is 1950 and that also occurred in 1951, and it's just not able that he'll be able. It's not possible that you have that body in his trunk for that long, but whatever. So right, there's Frankie Potts, and the next it reveals that through the gameplay, through one of Rocco's missions, Joe is actually ambushed in a car park. A couple of men with guns start shooting him, and he gets away with the delivery, and then goes to the cat house where he meets Don Falcone for the first time. Rocco steps out for a moment and then comes back with gunmen, revealing that Rocco was in fact the one that tried to kill Joe, and he's doing a hostile takeover on Falcone. So Falcone is shot, but survives obviously, and Rocco fails these assassinations, so he runs to the construction site that they formerly met Rocco at. He runs to the top, he's got all his men shooting at Joe. Joe goes in, kills them all, chases Rocco all the way to the top. Rocco's about to kill Joe until Joe throws Rocco off the construction site, landing on Eddie's car, killing Rocco. So this puts Joe in a favor, well, puts Don Falcone in the favor of Joe. Joe cashes in that favor to get Luca off his back, so they, at the end of Joe's adventures, they all go to Freddy's bar. Clemente, Falcone, Joe, Eddie, and they see Luca, and then Luca's about to kill him, but you know, obviously he can't, because he's they're all friendly now. So Joe is forgiven by the Clemente family, and Joe starts hanging around the Falcone family, as you see in Mafia 2. And finally, just to top it all off, Joe flips off Luca as a final fuck you, but obviously you can't do anything because, well, it's all is forgiven. So that basically is Joe's adventures. It's